Welcome to Multifamily Grit, where we bring in the experts to share their stories of the celebrations and struggles in one of the most important industries in the U.S., multifamily property management. I am joined today by Nate Thompson, Director of Screening at Morgan Properties, one of the top 3 multifamily owners and operators in the nation, focused on enhancing the lives of their residents and transforming the housing industry by empowering people to redefine their American dream. Known as the screening guy, Nate is dedicated to the science of screening and the art of fraud management. He brings 6 years of experience in combating fraud within the multifamily industry, using data and analytics to create stronger, more reliable resident bases, properties, and portfolios. His passion for detail and innovation makes him a leader in the ever-evolving battle against synthetic fraud, an issue that continues to challenge the industry. Nate holds a Bachelor of Arts from Harvard and is motivated by a relentless drive for growth, both in his career and in life. Nate's ability to produce results, we'll even discuss his start in the restaurant industry, while keeping his eye on the bigger picture is an incredibly effective combination. He's using that grit and focus today to implement real initiatives. Today, we'll dive into these initiatives, the latest fraud trends he's seeing, and the tech he's testing. Before we get started, we are sponsored today by the only core property management operating system built with an emphasis for affordable owners and operators. Fortress revolutionizes affordable management with features focused on automating housing assistance charges and payments to keep your ledgers clean and accurate, centralizing file reviews and document storage through Fortress and AWS, and a free in-system smart waitlist to ensure your property stays in compliance. And don't forget, if you like what you hear today, please like, subscribe, and share with someone you think would enjoy this episode. Nate, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, same. You and I have spent a little time together over the past few weeks, most recently at the TransUnion event. Was that last week?
Yep, just last week.
Yeah.
So picked up a nice cold while I was there. So just getting over that
Oh,
now. So
no. I was in Vegas the week before that and had I came back with like some sort of a stomach bug. My husband swears it was norovirus. I have no idea, but it was disgusting.
yeah. Oh,
So I feel you. I'm so sorry. It's like Vegas is like the conference center right now. It's also a bit of a cesspool.
yeah. I'm trying to avoid it
Yeah.
until OpTech, but I know there's NEA coming too. So here we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Yep. Well, we'll both be at NAA. So, yeah. Well, before we get started, I'd love for you to just share with our listeners how you got your start in the industry. I love this story, so I'd love for you to share it.
Yeah, I mean, so in this particular industry, I worked over. So I started in restaurant, and I think we'll get into that later. But
Yeah.
I started in restaurant, and I was in a company that did distribution. So I was Actually, I'll go into this for a second because it's
Go for
weird.
it. Yeah. I love it.
Before I was the screening guy, I was the cheese guy. I don't know if we talked about this in the past, but
We didn't, but
um,
I love it.
so
I'm
here
here
we
for
go.
it.
So I imported cheese for Whole Foods Market. It was a
Okay.
really cool job. So like I would
Yeah.
go to I was like the inside sales guy, but at the same time I would go to like France and I would go to these dairy farms and find cheeses and things like that, and I would bring them back to America and there's so much context here. I don't even know if whatever. But I'm lactose intolerant. I'm allergic to farm animals. So like, I couldn't touch the cheese and I couldn't eat the cheese. I shouldn't have. I went to one French farm and the guy gave me raw milk. I'm lactose intolerant, and he was French and he didn't. I drank the whole thing. Anyway, I can go on for a while with that. So
Nate,
I used
this
to
is
have
so
that
good.
job.
I was
It
literally
was
like thinking to myself, what in the world causes someone to quit that job? Well, that would. So,
Also, it doesn't pay well. So it's glamorous in the sense that you get to travel, but like they know that. So it doesn't like it's not the
mm,
most
got
high
it.
paying
Got
job.
it.
But I was actually recruited to go work for Yardi from that job, which again, I have a million stories from that, but we will move on from there for now. Um, and I started at Yardi. I started working with their major accounts and things like that. Um, I just really have always had a knack for data. And even
Yeah.
again, when I was a cheese salesman, I couldn't eat the cheese. So like what I would tell them is how I would explain things is like, listen, I don't know how it tastes. I don't really know, how well that's going to do, but well, no, I do know how well it's going to do because I will show you the data of the sales. Like, listen, people
Mm,
buy it. That's the most important thing we're trying to do here. They're buying
yeah.
it. So same kind of idea at Yardi. It was like account management and support, but I kind of changed my role and I just became like a data person and I became more of like the data guy for all of my team and also data just for my clients. And one of my clients loved it so much they brought me over to the owner
Oh,
operator side, and so
yep.
now I work at Morgan, and I've been doing, I started in revenue management over there to learn the business, which was great because coming from prop tech, you are a perfect example of this, but you're not having the same struggle I would have. So I went into prop tech being like, I understand Yardi. I do not understand this business at all. Like I can
Yeah.
point and click and show
Yeah.
you what to do. And so being a revenue manager really helped me like learn the business and talk to the site teams to understand their struggles and all these different things. And, a lot of like what they go through, I would always kind of like, relate back to my restaurant industry days and things like that. Um, so I was really that was really, really helpful. And then they real I knew why I was there. I was really good at screening. I was really good at reducing delinquency, and they started to see some of those like returns, of me just
Yeah.
implementing little things on like the side. And they're like, oh, you should probably be doing this full time with a team because it's so impactful on your bottom line when you actually are actively trying to, stop fraud and make calculated decisions with policy.
Yeah.
That now I'm full time doing screening. That's all I do. Well, it's not all I do. I just secure a lot of other things, but screening is like the main focus. And, when I tell people what I do is I look at a delinquency number and I try to make that smaller.
Yeah.
That's basically what I do.
Yeah. Now, are you doing that for their Morgan's entire company?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. 360, 370 properties depending on the day. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
So I'll have like regional say like, hey, remember we made that change? I'm like, absolutely not. I don't remember what I did yesterday. So there's,
I'm the same way.
constant change. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the same kind of thing. But the good thing is, at least, with screening, I can say, we're going to make this change and we will not talk again for 6 months because we don't know what will happen. We have to I am very data oriented. So I'm like, I want to see what change happened and what are the results before we just start layering on more changes because it's like we don't know what worked. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. I will tell you, I feel like there's like a group of people who have worked in the restaurant industry and then people who haven't. Like there's just like a very fine line there because I feel like I'm one of the only people in my family, like even my extended family, that's actually works in the restaurant industry. I was a hostess, I was a server, I've even been a bartender.
yep.
And so like having that experience and then like going to a restaurant, it's like a drastically different experience than everyone else that I'm with who's never done that job before. I mean, it's rough. That's a
Well,
rough job.
yeah, again, I'll tell the story I talked to you about the other, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, but so like when I first started at Morgan as a revenue manager, one of the comments that I heard um when I was doing one of my calls, or maybe I was doing a site visit, was like, you will never understand what it's like to scrub and sparkle these units for student housing, like when they're doing their two flips of the year, like, and I was like, sure. Maybe, but I did Mother's Day brunch as a dishwasher, like, with three different turns before, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And that's literally the most insane thing I've ever done in my life. And it's not to discredit. I'm sure this is just as hard or, maybe harder, but, similar kind of things. Like, yes, I understand what it's like to have these hectic things all day. And so, yeah, no, I do think there's a lot of parallels between like
Agreed.
the site team level and just the restaurant industry, that kind of the grit and the grind and like every all hands on deck. Like the dishwasher might end up being the bar back today. The leasing agent might end up being the assistant property manager for 2 weeks, something like that, so
Yeah.
it happens.
Yeah, I love those parallels. And I just think that so many times um, we will even say things like, we brought in a leasing consultant from the hospitality industry. And I'm like, property management is a hospitality industry. Like that's what, I mean, I feel like it's very, very similar to restaurants, hotels. Like, but for some reason we just don't, a lot of us don't look at it that way. I actually read Unreasonable Hospitality for the first time this past year, and when I read it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, the parallels between like the restaurant industry and the multifamily industry." So I see it. I see it too.
Yeah, it's again, for me, again, like you said, there are people who came from it and then people who don't. And I don't want
Yeah.
to be like like stolen valor kind of thing. No, it's fine. If you didn't do it, that's okay. Like you have your own work ethic and things like that. But another like when I started at Yardi and I came right from restaurant, and I got that job, like an office job, and I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
Like this is not that. I mean, not it was hard work. It was more using your brain.
Yeah.
And I did such a great job that they went ahead and they hired another person from restaurant. And I remember talking to him. He's like, "Is this the job?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is the job. Like this is it. Like we are just answering emails all. This is great." And he's like, "This is amazing." And I'm like, "I know." So again, that there's a different kind of like, it's a different level of work. And I would say
Yeah.
now, like 8 years, 10 years removed from it, my brain hurts more doing this job than my back would hurt doing restaurant, but also my
Yeah.
brain would hurt as a server. So again, there's like all these, but again, it's very, very similar.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, thanks for sharing. I really love the fact that you were on site and someone was confident enough to tell you that you'd never know what it would be like, and you could share that you did.
Yeah,
So,
be a dishwasher and come back to me with that comment. Like do it for a week and then come back to me with that comment.
yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it. So tell me a little bit about your time at Yardi. I mean, you don't have to dig in too much, but like, what was it like for you working in prop tech?
I loved it.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic company to work for. I learned so much about, I would say I was pretty good at data analysis. But they had, it wasn't like my solely my pure love for data. There were members of the team there that really wanted to get to like the truth of an issue because like with screening, you
Okay.
really can get kind of granular and figure out like, hey, like we have $16 million in delinquency from 2022. And it's
Okay.
from this list of people. And like, you could, high level, you might say, okay, tighten up your credit to 600 plus and, tighten up your income, things like that. Whereas we would go in and we'd like really, really like dig in and we'd look at every single individual applicant, things like that. And we would try to like, you know, it's not just a one size fits all if you want to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
The industry standards of things like three times the rent. It has to be three times the rent. Things like that where yeah, it doesn't really necessarily it's not true anymore. And that was something that when I got to Morgan, they're like, we got to get back to three times the rent. And then when I was like, I agree, let's do it. And so we did it. But then like after collecting data and reviewing data, I'm like, there's no correlation here between the income and the delinquency. So what's the point of that? And so at working at Yardi, they did focus on actually trying to find the problem and putting a solution in place that would actually solve it. So I would say like working there really taught me to be more patient,
Yeah.
and instead of just spewing out what I think should be the answer, what I've been told should be the answer, I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. So let's look at the data. What does the data tell you? Let the data tell the story, and then take action based off of that. So
Yeah.
I loved working there. I loved prop tech. It's I love this side too. I love both
Yeah.
sides. They're very, 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 very different. If anybody's thinking about making that transition, and you are straddling it, the
Yeah.
both sides of it, so it is extremely different.
Tell
But
me how. How? How's it different?
honestly it's I don't want I don't want to discount prop tech side. I just feel like it's a bit more and maybe in my particular role, it's just a bit more work, but not
Oh,
in like that it's
100%.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's because like I'm more at prop tech, I'm focused on Morgan properties. I want to make them happy. I want to make them, re-up their contract. Honestly, that's re-up the contract, not drop us as a client, la
You're
di da di
providing a
da.
service. Yeah. Yeah.
When I'm on the operator side, I'm like, it kind of hits you maybe 3, 6, 9 months in. You're like, I'm helping people find homes. So I'll be sitting on my couch outside on a Sunday and I'll see messages from a team member being like, I have someone here, they're trying to move in. And I get a guilt. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I need to help this person because if I don't help
Yeah.
this person, there's a family sitting in Indiana who's trying to move in today. And if I don't help them, even though I'm at this corporate job and blah, 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 it doesn't matter. I should get on. I should help them. And because if it was me and my family, I'd be
Yeah.
like, I hope someone would do that for me. So it's like this different
Yeah.
kind of mindset that you have to have. Where like at tech, I was like, whatever, they can wait. Not, in that sense, but again, when you put a family and when you start putting these things together for when you're selling homes and when you're renting homes,
Yeah.
there's more meaning to it
Yeah.
in a sense. But
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really well said. There's just a, there's a different level of responsibility in being the provider of the technology to that company versus being the company that's literally providing the home to the
Yeah.
people. And there's so many, there are a lot of uncontrollables in tech, but in multifamily, oh my God, like the number of uncontrollables, like, and I swear there are new ones every day. It's surreal, the things that you have to deal with. I mean, some of
Yeah.
the most difficult things we dealt with at Elmington Property Management were just things you could have never have imagined. I mean, one time we had a property in Nashville that was like 80% non-English speaking. It's not English as a second language, like non-English speaking. And there was a massive sewer pipe that burst under a 16-unit, two-story building, and it flooded the entire bottom floor, the entire 8 units on the bottom floor with sewage. And a lot of these people didn't have cars. They didn't like trust hotels. They'd never stayed in a hotel before. Like they don't have credit cards. Their kids are on a bus line, and this isn't getting fixed by Monday. Let's be clear. It's like happened on a Friday afternoon. This is not gonna be fixed by Monday. They didn't want to leave their units, even though this was happening. So they're like doing everything they can to like clean out the units, and we're trying to help. And we like speaking with them is very, very difficult because there's like 16 families, not like 16 individuals. And the property manager is doing her best to manage the situation, and it was just chaos. And it's like sometimes in those moments, like there's just very little you can do to even make the situation better for them, so it's just so uncontrollable.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I have a property man, I think he's a regional now named Yakub. And now like what you telling that story kind of like puts it together in my head. I'm like, that's probably where it clicked for me. But like I remember him talking to me about probably 2, 3 years ago. It was a similar scenario. It was like Thanksgiving
Oh,
and something happened, like a fire or something. And he was talking about how he's like at Thanksgiving. It might not have been Thanksgiving, maybe it was Christmas, maybe it was Easter. It was a holiday, and I was just shocked. He was like, I immediately left my family drove over to the property. The
yeah,
facility manager was already there. Everybody was there trying to just help. Like there's nothing we could do. It's a
yeah,
fire, but they're there to comfort the residents and things
yeah,
like that. And I'm like,
yeah.
that's crazy because like again, to your prop tech, I would never have. I mean, it's not like you
No,
wouldn't. It's just a different kind of
you just
relationship.
don't have that
So you wouldn't have.
responsibility anymore. Yeah,
Right, right.
yeah.
So it's totally yeah. It's a totally different experience.
Yeah, and I'm like you. I've what's that? I feel like I've done so many of these like assessments on yourself, but like the Strengths Finder, I think that's what it was. So like responsibility is my number one. So like if there's anything happening anywhere, I'm like you on the Sunday when that happens. I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'm gonna go find a computer or find somewhere where I can like step away from whatever it is I'm doing to help fix that for those families. So when you have that sense of extreme responsibility, the multifamily industry can be wearing. That's for sure. I mean, it's so
Yeah.
validating also, but it can be tough.
And it's like landlords, and again, this is going to sound bad, but like landlords are landlords and they have this horrible reputation. And I tell everybody, I'm like, I work for Morgan, and every single person I know, and nobody has any nefarious intent. Like we are trying to
Yeah,
help people find homes. We
absolutely.
want you to be happy. And
Yeah.
even from like a monetary standpoint, it's like we want you to be happy because we want you
Yeah.
to renew. Like we don't have any interest in losing your business.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've even gone so far as to, like Elmington as a landlord, we've even gone so far as to like start our own nonprofit where we're giving back to the communities where we operate. So, and trying to
Yep.
find ways to actually do it even more. And so, like, gosh, we try to do whatever we can, but I mean, we get that nefarious rap because we have to evict people. And but
Right.
I mean, unfortunately, in today's economic circumstances, if you don't evict someone, like the asset may be repossessed. Like, like you won't be able to make your mortgage payment or at the very least the interest payment, and then you're in a lot of trouble. So,
Yep.
it's a really difficult time for almost all landlords, honestly, with rates the way they are. So yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. I haven't had that conversation with anyone about like the difference between working in prop tech versus multifamily operations. I can tell you that when I kind of flipped the switch, because I'm still a part owner in that property management company, but I don't do much over there anymore. I provide some guidance and some help for the management team. But when I made that switch, I absolutely needed it. Like I needed to get away, and now I would say like I've had my break and I would go back. Like there's something so rewarding about that industry, and like you said, the team and the people who really care and providing housing. It's really rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
again, it's harder, I would say, but I do love it, so just
yeah.
different. you know?
Yeah. So I want to go back to something that you said earlier because I really want to dig in on this. I'm super interested. You mentioned that 3 times the rent thing, and oh my goodness, like the 2 times, 2.5 times rent, 3 times rent. We deal with it with a lot of customers, a lot of groups talk about it, and I have always hated it, hated it. But I didn't have the data to back it up. I just, in my gut, I just did not like it. I really felt like we should be using a partner that we work with, TransUnion. We should just be using TransUnion's renter score, period. And it's not their credit score, it's their renter score because, you could have a renter that has a like 600 credit score. And for most of your properties, that's fine. But if 30 days ago their credit score was 800 and now it's
Yeah, that's a
600, like,
problem.
woo.
Right.
So in that instance, TransUnion would actually give you a really low renter score. And it's like this one's like high risk because their credit score is dropping drastically over the past 30 days, right? So I'm not even talking about credit score. I'm talking about the renter score. Like you utilize this renter score, which would give you like the indication of the ability, the likelihood of that renter, not really ability, but just the likelihood of that renter to make their payments, their rent payments. And that I thought we should just use that number and not even care about how much money someone made. Because I got to tell you, like, no matter how much money I make, like, or don't make, I'm going to pay my rent. Like, I will freaking figure it out, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
And so, but you have the data to back it up. So,
Yeah, that was one of the first things I did when I got to Morgan, was
yeah.
to kind of go at that whole like narrative. 3 times the rent is what they need to make, blah, 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 because how would they make enough money to pay to support the burden of rent? So it's not necessarily true at all. There's no correlation. At least, again, I have Morgan's data, which is a lot. I mean, we have workforce housing, we're B plus, A minus assets. So I have a good, range of people. We have hundreds and thousands of scans that we can
Mm-hmm.
use and in move-ins to kind of build these reports. And so the first thing we looked at was we broke it down. I'm looking at it right now, actually. We
Oh, I
broke it
love
down
it.
by income base. We, um, did I lose you? Okay, you're back.
Okay.
So as far as what the study, we compared credit score, or in this sense, we use Yardi, which has like a risk score, which is very similar to TransUnion's renter score, same kind of idea. Um, and we put them like next to each other. We said, okay, this person makes $50,000 per year. This person makes $50,000 per year. This person has a 700 renter score. This person has a uh, 300 renter score. The 300 renter score went belly up, right? So like that group had a higher propensity of not paying the rent.
Yep.
So if you flip it and you look at like, okay, so I have someone who makes $150,000, but their renter score is 400, right? So let's look at the group between 400 to 500. Low renter score, but they have high incomes. How do they compare against those that have high incomes and those same low renter scores? It's very, very similar. So what we started to find was the income really didn't matter. So if you had high income and a low renter score, you weren't going to pay your rent. If
Yeah.
you had low income and a high renter score or risk score, they paid their rent, right?
Yeah.
So to put it more simply, credit scores, I'm just going to use credit scores just to put it that way. A credit score is an indication of your propensity to pay,
Yes.
right? So what I have told, my leadership team, the Morgans, who am I to tell you how you spend your money? Listen, I have a 750 credit score right there that you're telling whatever you're doing, if you're making, whatever it is, $28,000 per year, but you got a robust 750 credit score. To your point, Kerri, you figure it out.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you're figuring it out. You're paying your bills. I don't know, but you're doing it,
Yeah.
right? And I know we have lots of high earners with low credit scores that sure they make a lot of money, but they're not paying us. So what difference does it make, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's honestly pretty. It's a weirdly obvious, but like in the multifamily industry, it just didn't. It just is such a focus on rent to income ratio.
Yes. Yes.
Um, I'm to the point where it's like, does it even matter? And we can get into this later, but like I use income verification 100%. And I tell everybody, I'm like, I do not care. They're like, oh well, they said they made 4,000, but we only verified 3,000. I'm like, okay, great. Does 3,000 qualify? They're like, yeah, but they lied. I'm like, who cares? Like they like, again, we verified the income. And I use income verification as not how much money you make. could care less. It's not you passed my credit. Now the income verification there is really more for identity.
Yeah.
And and then we force that with primary sources and stuff like that, like banking and payroll.
Yeah.
And so it's just like an extra little at the end, like one more primary source verification for you to pass. And hey, your credit was good. You're good to go. But again,
Yeah.
we do have restrictions. And that study we did was about 2 years ago. But what I will say is this, what I will give in a little bit is as we have rolled income verification out, and we have it almost everywhere, you do start to see a correlation between income and their propensity to pay. However, that same exact thing that was there before is still there. The
Yeah.
credit is still there, right? So the lower incomes, again, and the credits start to drop as well. So still, credit is the stronger correlation, but I will say this. Yes, if you're verifying incomes, there is a small, slight correlation between their propensity to pay. But again, the credit is just so much stronger.
Yeah. So, did you guys do away with the income to rent ratio?
Not really, but we're just a lot more lenient about it.
Okay.
So we're not three times the rent. We're upwards of 2.5, 2.25, depending on where we,
Okay.
sometimes two times, sometimes it's gone.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, we,
Sometimes
we didn't completely go,
sometimes it's gone.
so sometimes, yeah,
Okay.
in certain very, very, very certain situations. But we
Would
we we generally go ahead.
would you argue to get rid of it?
Uh,
I'm just
maybe.
asking you. Seriously. Like I don't you don't have to speak on behalf of Morgan, but like if you were to go start your own property management company. Let's start that. If you were to go start your own
Yeah,
property management company next month and you were managing C plus to A minus assets, would you use it at all?
yeah,
You would?
because there's a limit, right?
Yeah.
So the lower the rent, it starts to get a little bit like you got to start thinking about it. Where it's like, okay, in San Francisco, if I own my own business or whatever, and I was, screening people, and the rent is $4,000, I'd be cool with a two times, whatever, 50% rent income ratio because you still have another 4,000 to play with.
Mm-hmm.
Here in Michigan, and the rent is $600, and you're coming in at like 70%, right? So you're making $1,000 a month. So I'm like, okay, you got to pay me 600. You got to pay for your car. You got to pay for everything. And I know your credit's good right now, but I might be putting you in a bad position here. Like the math doesn't math anymore. So like that's where I'm like, there is a
But
limit
but
to
what if
it.
they don't have a car?
Yeah, I mean, again, to your
Right?
point, it's a valid argument, and I would test it. That's the
Yeah.
thing. I would
See,
test
this
it
is
to
what I want.
see.
I want someone to
Yeah,
test it. Like I really want to see someone do it. I really do.
yeah, that might be again for Morgan. That might be a step too far. But I would if I ran my own company, I would probably test it because I test
Yeah.
everything. Why not?
Yeah.
Um, and what I would probably find is exactly what we're saying. If their credit was good, they probably paid, right?
Yeah.
So like, and I think too, like in the way that we are set up at Morgan, and the way that I think other some of our competitors are set up, like if you're using these verification services just in general, they're not picking up a lot of this gig stuff anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're not checking and this person comes in, the rent's $1,000, they come in that they make $1,100 per month. One of the questions I'm always asking, and it's like hard to tell the site teams to like not trust the process. It's like trust the process. However, why in the world did they apply? If they're only coming in at 1,100, there
Yeah.
might be more to the story here.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
in that sense, I'm like, I know who they are. I know what their credit score is. I'd really like to convert them,
Yeah.
right? So it's like
Exactly.
I'm kind of held back by this income thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, personally, I take the risk on you all day. But it's like I have this policy written. So again, it's kind of
Yeah.
this. So to answer your question, if it was my own company, I would try it.
Yeah.
I'd feel way more comfortable in a higher rent area. I don't know how well it would work in a lower rent area,
Yeah.
but it depends.
Well, I'd love for you to convince Morgan to test it because I'd really like to know what happens. So
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm
if
sure
you,
I could, but if I'm wrong, that's where it becomes problematic.
well, I mean, you could test the data, pretty well, I guess pretty quickly. It takes time, you're right, to test something like that out, but I'd love to see it. So,
Yeah, screening I think I said at the top, but screening, it's like when someone asks me to make a change and they want to know like next
Yeah.
month. I'm like,
Yeah.
talk to me in 6 months, but honestly, talk to me in a year because I
Yeah.
don't know. Like the
Yeah.
lease, I need to see the whole entire lease. Like you got all
Yeah.
these people moving in. How are they going to perform? I don't know. I
Yeah.
could tell you your rejection rates now. I could tell you your trends, but I don't know what's going to happen if they skip or evict for quite some time.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, um, so you alluded to this part too. So I want to dig into this next. Honestly, you've taught me so much about screening. It's incredible. But so we talked about the income verification, and you and I have argued a little bit, as we just did, around whether or not it's even important, like verifying whether or not their income's important. And you would argue that regardless of the income to rent ratio, that the verification of income is extremely important, and that and other methods are really right now the main source of combating fraud. And obviously outside of managing delinquency through renter income or credit risk, the next one is managing delinquency through fraud risk. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing with fraud right now and how income verification plays a role in that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the worst thing ever, dealing with fraud because it's
Yeah.
like, how do you go about it? And I'm not going to sound defeated because we're not. But the way that we deal with it is probably similar to a lot of people who listen to this and who are in this industry deal with it. We're just coming at it at like so many different ways. We're going to hit you with ID verification at the top. Do I think that does anything? Not really. It's essentially my scarecrow. It's like I call that the scarecrow at the top. So like my low hanging fruit, the people who are like just got their fake ID, maybe that will scare them away. So
Yeah.
hopefully, okay,
But
good. All
but
right. So
ID
that
verification isn't like that's not something that you hang any hats on.
Nothing.
All right.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, not at all.
Okay.
Document again, I could go on a doc. Yeah, but yeah, so I'm more of a primary source guy, but again, I just
No, no,
know
no.
that you
That's
can get
great.
these,
That's great. Yeah, yeah. So, primary source. So, an ID verification is not a primary source.
not to me because it's a document, and that
Okay.
document can be forged
Yep. Yep. Okay.
easily.
Okay.
I know these IDs can get through the system. I see
Yeah.
it all the time. So that's
Okay.
the thing. Like being on this side, like on the tech side, it's like, oh yeah, this will catch the IDs, and then on my side, I'm like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So again, like I don't know what to tell you. It just
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah.
But again, it catches a lot, maybe. That's being nice, but okay, so it catches
But
some,
you think
or it
more
doesn't.
more than anything, it's like creating it's that point where someone who's like was a little hesitant would like turn around and go to a property that
That's
doesn't
it.
have it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. It's so
yeah.
much like that's exactly it. I'm like,
Yeah.
listen, I don't want to. So like Morgan's got this here, so I'm gonna go over to Nate's properties that doesn't. Like, why waste the time and buy this ID
Yeah.
online? I could just do it here. So
Yeah.
that's like my
Okay.
first thing. So ID verification off the jump. Then the great thing that ID verification does, in my opinion,
Okay.
is, and especially with Yardi, it locks in their information. So like
Okay. Oh, yeah, yeah.
from working at a screening vendor, it's like personal identifiers. So I am Nate Thompson, but I am legally Nathaniel Thompson.
Yeah.
And likely all of my criminal records are under Nathaniel Thompson, but I am going to apply as Nate Thompson.
Yep.
But if I scan my ID, that'll be a name mismatch.
Yeah.
So maybe if I was a criminal or something like that, and maybe I wasn't even trying to commit fraud or anything, and I was just applying as Nate,
Yeah.
you're not likely going to get those records. So that's where it's helpful. Would I love that if it would, pick up their date of birth and other information and populate that into the application form? Absolutely. So I think that would be a good next step for those kind of services, if it's real. So then moving on from that, so you have ID verify at the top, and then it's got that name, it's got the information correct. And then you move over to the actual screening itself. You run the screening, and you hopefully have the right personal identifiers. And one thing we're looking for is like the little check marks at the top of the credit report, like this is social belong to another person. Are they
Yeah,
dead?
yeah. Yep.
Blah blah blah. Which is oddly enough, that's another thing that we look at. Um, there's not a lot of correlation between delinquency and those checkpoint messages. So like I've started to lose a little bit of faith in that as well. So it's like high probability SSN belongs to another. And then you like look at the data and it's like, well, these people aren't really going delinquent. So is it real? Is it not? So I don't know if there's a lot of accuracy there.
That's
So anyway,
interesting.
You would think again, you would think, but the ones that definitely have a lot of delinquency tied to them are the ones that come back as like TransUnion. TransUnion we call them like refers or
Yeah.
like no hits. Those ones, yes, absolutely. But the weird ones where it's like high probability this belongs to another, or like consumer is deceased is another one that gets a lot of delinquency. But anyway, so we'll check that stuff. And then we kind of bookend the process at the end with right now we just layered in SentiLink, which is like CPN detection. That has like completely changed the game in my opinion.
Okay.
So we'll run that, and then we will run income verification. And so we put income verification at the end because like that's kind of like my fine. You got through my ID, you got through my screening, you got through SentiLink, link a bank account. Like that's my view here. It's like, so if you went through the trouble to create this alias and do all of these things, and I know what I can buy on TikTok because I'm on it.
Yeah.
I'm in the groups like Johnny Bravo essentially like he's the same kind of thing as me. I'm in the Facebook groups trying to buy these, packages
Of
for Morgan
course you are.
properties and
Yeah.
things like that. Well, yeah, because I'm just curious because like well, I want to
Yeah.
know if it's Morgan communities. I've seen it before. But I see what they can buy. I've never seen one that's like this. Here's a login for a bank to get you in. So that's kind of like my trump card. I'm like, you can get through all of my systems, but link your bank account.
Yeah.
And we'll even do things like where applicants will say, I have an offer letter, and it's like, okay, great, link a bank account. Like, I won't qualify. I'm like, don't care, link a bank account. I want
Yeah.
you to link the bank account because I know you got the offer letter. I know you got the CPN. I know you got the ID, and the offer letter came with it. Link the bank account, Kerri, in your name, and then we're good,
Yeah.
and then they go away. So like that's kind of, and I notice how I don't talk about their income. I don't care. It's just making them do that last part. Link
Yeah.
that bank account or have the payroll verification. And at that point, sure, we'll calculate your income and whatever. But it's more so it's there for identity purposes. So like the way that we're approaching it today is from all of those different angles. Now, where I will say like maybe my mind is shifting a bit is, we're collecting data on this new CPN detection thing we're using. If that is wildly effective, so like to be honest, like right now it's pretty passive. It doesn't have to be passive. But right now it's passive. So
What
I'm
do you mean by
collecting
that?
data.
Okay.
I'm not stopping them. Like when it
Okay.
flags, I tell our teams, hey, collect this extra information, and if they do, produce their passport or whatever, let them go in. So, and also knowing that, I have 370 properties. I know mistakes are going to be made. I know we're doing 120,000 applications per year. There's not going to be like, there's going to be some that get through, a lot that get through. So my view is great. In 6 months, I'll have this on for, 6 months and see how many of these people immediately went delinquent, how many skipped, how many evicted. If I'm seeing that like 90% did, oh, okay, great. Then I'm going to go to, and put in
Okay.
a work, or like I'm going to, put something in place to
Okay.
put a halt on that. And then do I back off on my income verification? Maybe I
Okay.
go,
Let me make
okay,
sure. Let me make sure I
go ahead.
understand. So you're saying that you guys rolled out SentiLink for the CPN detection. Let me take a step back. What is CPN detection? What is CPN?
Credit privacy number. It's like you can buy them online and they market. It's almost sad, because again, it's like this empathetic side of things where it's like people think they're buying something that's real. Like
Yeah.
when the way that these are marketed and the way that you can find them on TikTok. I was just watching a TikTok live. This guy was going on. It was live, so I was like right up until till we got on the call, and he was going through like this CPN stuff. He's going to get you blah blah blah. This package da da da. It just seems so legitimate. It's like, listen, if you've got debtors coming after you and you just need a fresh start, like you use these credit privacy numbers that are. So what is it? It's just 9 digits,
It's a
random.
fake
Um,
SSN essentially.
Yep, it's a fake SSN, 9 digits. It could be anything. The good ones, and I don't think I'm telling anybody anything they don't know. It's all over Reddit. But the good ones are like, they know like, hey, if you're from North Carolina, the first 3 digits should be like
Yeah.
this. And so like those are the better ones that fool the credit bureaus. But they are illegal. Like if you use them, that is fraud.
So a
If you buy
CPN
it.
is actually illegal.
To use it, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. If
Okay.
you like, if you go to like like a car dealership and you try to get a car with that, they're probably going to call the police and you're going to be arrested.
Yeah.
It is fraud.
Okay.
So using like those 9 digit made up numbers, and the way that like they gain credit. And I think, like somebody like, Johnny over at CenturyLink can explain this better than I can, but they kind of just start doing inquiries
Mm-hmm.
using this, and maybe they'll get like a small credit line of $200. Maybe they'll be able to get like an Affirm loan, buy now, pay later loan. Then the credit is established. There's also like programs like and this is like rent positive reporting, stuff like that. So hey, use your CPN to get moved in for a few months, pay your rent, because then it won't work, but pay your rent for a few months, and then boom, you got this positive trade line on there, so it looks like you have like a real credit line.
Yeah.
Um, what we deal with at Morgan, and I think like the boogeyman that people are afraid of is like there's 750 CPN, which there are 750 CPNs look totally real, like totally robust credit. I don't really see that. Like our CPNs and stuff like that still kind of manifest themselves as like zero credit or very, very like low
Okay.
borderline credit. But again, it's masking whatever else is going on in their life.
Yeah.
They're probably realistically their 400 credit score.
Yeah. Oh gosh, this is so interesting. Okay. So then you rolled out CenturyLink to
Yep.
for CPN detection. How long ago did you roll that out?
Not long ago, like
Okay.
22 days ago.
Okay. Not that you're counting.
So yeah,
And and as of right now, it's it's telling you if a 9-digit number that's been provided as a social security number is detected as a potential CPN, but you're ignoring those flags right now. It's just essentially accumulating data for you.
not I wouldn't say ignoring them.
Okay.
We have instructed our site teams to pay attention to it and to collect the documents. What I'm not forcing is like, so like with screening, we can put permissions on things and we can make it so that you cannot move forward with this person. So like from an
Okay.
income verification standpoint, if they do not link their bank or do a payroll, they cannot move forward.
Okay.
So I just haven't got to that step of like me forcing the issue, knowing that mistakes will happen, knowing that
Well,
someone
it's
will
just
be
untested.
fooled.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, like, what I'd love to be able to do is go to like my operations and my legal team and be like, 96% of the people who had these got evicted. So
Yeah.
let's put some action behind it. So it's like I'm trying to figure out what that action should be. So
Yeah.
right now the action is collect extra information. But if I find out that 95% of people are getting evicted, maybe that action is like, we're going to deny you, right? And so that is where it becomes tricky because like you can't deny for, it's non-FCRA compliant. So maybe, there's just
Mm.
again, we got to figure out what that action should be and what extra information I should be asking for. So once I have the data to suggest that this is a real thing and we are really catching these people, maybe I'll do more layers to what I'm asking for now.
Yeah. So I should check back in with you on this in about 6 months.
That's what I tell everybody. Check
Okay.
back in 6 months. Yeah.
I will. Don't worry. You'll have to hear from me because I'm really interested to figure it out. So okay. So then but you said that no matter what, you are requiring income verification through either um, logging into a bank account or proving their employment. Is that what you guys are doing? So
Yep.
okay. How is someone proving that they're employed with you? So, like, I don't have a bank account. So then how do I move forward?
Yeah, well, I'd have questions for you. Is it-
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm getting over this cold. So if you don't have a bank account, we have banks that are not supported. So put it that way.
Okay.
We look at it like holistically. We're
Now, hold
like,
on. Let me
listen,
just ask. So, Morgan doesn't manage any properties where it's serving a demographic that's underbanked?
it doesn't seem to be an issue for us.
Okay.
So like it was something that we were concerned about.
Yeah.
There are certainly individual properties where we see at least a large presence of like Cash App or something like that.
Okay. But
Um,
they can validate
I
through Cash App.
They can't,
Okay.
right? And so in situations
Okay.
like that, that's when I'm going to kick it back to looking at your whole entire profile. I'm like, if you
Okay.
are a no hit or a refer in TransUnion terms,
Okay.
we have a bit of a problem here, right? Like
Yep.
that's where I'm going to be more concerned. If you have robust credit and everything else is fine, the mantra, right, is do what you did prior to income verification. Collect the bank statements,
Mm-hmm.
collect the pay stubs, and to make things just a little bit wonky, because again, we know what they're getting. I know what they're getting in their TikTok package. I'm at least going to get my pound of flesh. So I'm like two utility bills, something weird like that. So again, it's not, those aren't always included. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to make you at least work for this. So go get the two utility bills. And we'll also do things like
Love
we
it.
will just call the company. So when we're
Yeah.
verifying 85% automatically, that gives us a little bit more free time to be like, okay, so you have an offer letter from Target, or you say you work at Target, but you won't link your bank account, or you can't link your bank account because it's cash up. Whatever, sure, we'll just call the Target. Like, let's just actually call the Target, Google the number, call them, speak to them, because we are not going to call the number that you gave us as a reference or whatever it may be. Yeah, yeah, call Tim. You are Tim, aren't you? Like that. Like, so we don't do it that way. But yeah, well, we do work with people that don't have banks. It's just we kind of look at it case by case, and we
Yeah.
do have like a policy and procedure exactly how we're going to do it. But it typically is like, do they have rental history records? Yes. Okay, good. Do they
Mm-hmm.
have credit? Like, great. It's honestly, I don't care if it's bad credit. I just want to see that you are real, right? It's
Yeah.
when you don't have anything and then you won't go through my verification. That's when I have an issue. It's like
Yeah.
that's where I'm like, okay, now I'm going to introduce so much friction here that it's not going to be worth it for
Yeah.
anybody involved.
Yeah, I love that word. You use it a lot actually in creating or not creating friction. What's your theory on that?
Yeah, I'm going to steal again another phrase, friction right. I do like it. Friction right is good. Like the way that I try to set up our policies and the way to get into a Morgan property is I think of my mother, who is like 72, and I'm like, could she do this? Probably not. But again, I try to put it in a way where I'm like, could my mother get through our systems and like do the ID verify and do the income verification? And the thought process I have is, if you are who you say you are, I want this to be super duper easy. And I think like for years I've been talking about like, I don't know, I went to the car dealership and had this like aha moment, and I think we were getting a Highlander, and I had to fill out this whole application form and it's like I had to put in like Morgan Properties, like I had to like Google HR to like give them my information so they could like contact them or whatever. And I'm doing all this, and then they're like, all right, we're gonna go run your credit. And they run my credit and they come back to like, you're good. Like they didn't need to do it. Like the application was thrown out because they
Yeah.
saw like I had good credit, was robust, blah, blah, blah. And we just moved right along. That's what I think is the perfect way to do screening in multifamily. Like there's companies like the 100 who are kind of doing something like that, where it's like, I've been saying for years, I'm like, there should be like a clear or a TSA pre-check for multifamily. It's like you come in here with
Yeah.
like some sort of like verified, I'm a verified renter or whatever it may be. That would make things so much easier. And then we would just have the friction reserved for those that are, you know, just there's no profile on them. And
Yeah.
what I hate about that is it'll hurt, people who are from other countries and things like that. That's where it becomes tricky. So like I try to ask for easy things like, oh, you're great, just give me a visa, passport, anything. Like just
Mm-hmm.
you must have like one of those two things. So, oh, sorry, getting a call. Um, so if you have one of those two things, it's we're good. So again, it's like adding friction that is going to not hinder our good applicants.
Yeah.
And another part of that friction too, sorry to be all over the place, but we add security with the way that we structure our security deposits. It's like, yeah, great. Like if you're perfect, we want you to have a nice, easily attainable, security deposit. So move right in. And it's just when you trigger all of Nate's flags, we're going to give you that max deposit. So again, that's just like another layer of friction. So it's like,
Yep.
you got through everything, and it's like you fooled me on everything, but now 2 months rent deposit or 1 month's rent pay up. So it's like now you're putting some skin in the game. And then if you do that, even if you've triggered all of my flags, I'm like, well, now you've got skin in the game. So I guess, hey, we're even.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I'm glad that you jumped around a little bit because it's so interesting. Gosh, I could go on forever, but I'm just gonna ask you one more question before I get into my final two questions. Because I've taken a lot of your time already. But Nate, what do you think about the future of screening and fraud? Where do you think we're gonna be? Like you are so immersed in it, you understand this industry so well, and you know what we're dealing with today. But what do you see in your world happening in the next even just 3 to 5 years or more, whatever you want to share?
I would say positive outlook. We're going to have like verified renter networks, rental passports, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because it just makes so much sense. Like 56, what I don't know what the percentage of, I'm going to say 50% of America rents, right? There should be a way to make this very, very easy. Like there shouldn't be this, every single apartment I go to, I have to fill out an application and have my credit check. I get it. Like everybody has different kind of metrics and things like we do. We're property to property. We have different levels and la di da. But I think what we're going to get to, and someone's going to do it, is some sort of like clear or pre-check for screening, where it's like I have like a static credit report that's good for 30 days. It refreshes every 30 days. I walk into your office, I bing, I put it on the table, scan a QR code, and then boom, they have all my information, and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
I think that's coming, and I think that's coming soon. I think we've added so much friction to this process where it's like it's kind of getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
Even I look at it like, yeah, I think Rich at the conference you were talking, he was saying the same kind of thing. Like, there's just too much. But at the same time, kind of has to be that way right now because fraud's so out of control. But
Mm-hmm.
I do think with stuff like CenturyLink, these CPN detections and the device penetration, IP
Mm-hmm.
tracking, all the
Mm-hmm.
stuff that's coming into our vertical, I do think that it's gonna get better.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan would say right now, like, I don't really consider that we do have a fraud problem. And now I might say bit of a friction problem, but I think we'd rather have
Yeah.
the friction problem than the fraud problem.
And thus the
And I think
delinquency
maybe
problem. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's like we'd rather, we're very focused on economic occupancy versus physical.
Yeah.
So I'd rather be at 93 than 96 with 88 paying,
Yeah.
So 93 with 92 paying, let's go.
Yeah.
Um, and I would say maybe from a negative side of things, but I don't know. I don't even know if it's that negative because I have my own thoughts on this anyway, but I do think like criminal records are probably going to be something we can't look at in the future.
Yeah.
And maybe not under this particular administration, but I think we're moving towards all, and again, hey, if they're kicking everything back to the states, I think you're going to start seeing like
Yeah.
there are states like where I live in Massachusetts, you're not getting I mean, again, you can look, but good luck. You got to run a query and you got to go right to the courthouse, stuff like that. Like Louisiana, you got to go to the
Yeah.
clerk and meet with the guy to find. So I think like they're already making it difficult, and I think the future is just. And you got Cook County, you got New Jersey, you got
Yeah.
Montgomery
Yeah. A
County,
lot of
all these
states,
different
municipalities
places.
are saying you can't even look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like I think we're moving towards like criminal is going to go away. I think civil court records are going to go away, and we're
Yeah.
really going to. It's going to be a perfect world for me and Kerri. It's like we're going to focus on your credit, and we're
Yeah.
going to focus on your credit, and we're going to focus on your identity, and that's about it. And I think that's all that matters because that's the data correlation you're looking for. I mean, obviously, those that get evicted in the past have a high propensity to get evicted in the future, but I mean, we can tell
Yeah.
from their credit either way.
Yeah.
So
I
I think it's
agree.
going to get easier for renters, and I think we're going to have less visibility into things that don't necessarily indicate any kind of delinquency, like criminal
Yeah.
records and things like that. And like, I don't want to go into that, but as a screening guy, I have odd views there where I'm like, listen, if they paid their debt to society, why can't they get a house after they get out of prison? But
Yeah.
I get it. I
Hey,
get
hey,
it.
if
There's
if
a
you want to
whole
get into a political debate, we can do that too. I'm not saying I disagree with you, but if you want to get political here, we can.
Yeah, no, again, I just feel bad. I'm
I get it.
well, I mean, I think if it affects your business or if it affects your, like if it's like fraud or something or assault or you're gonna endanger children or blah blah blah, I get it. But then as you start gaming it out, you're like, okay, well yeah, maybe you shouldn't allow that, and then maybe you shouldn't
Yeah.
allow this. So like I get both sides of it, but I also just do feel for people that they did a crime, we have a system, they paid their debt, it's over. It should be over, but now they're still getting affected. It's still following them after, which kind
Yeah.
of stinks.
Yeah. No, I agree actually. But total side note, but my husband is actually a detective in Nashville, and he has worked in several divisions, including gangs. And right now, he is a part of a group that deals with managing like sex offenders in Nashville. And I'm not going to get political, but I am going to say that Nashville in Tennessee is actually one of the few states. I guess I can't say few, but it's one of the states that requires an offender to ensure that they're only living and working within certain areas where they're allowed to, right? And
Yeah.
I'm like, you got to be like, don't get me wrong. I understand the
Yeah.
motivation behind it. I get it. But also,
Yeah.
now what you're doing is you're essentially the real purpose of all of this is that you want to be able to track and monitor those people, right? You want to be able to know where they're at any time. So if there's any accusation made, you can go find them right away, right? Like they need to register with you. But the problem is, and that my husband sees it all the time, it's like forcing people to lie, right? Because like, how freaking hard is it to find housing, affordable housing in Nashville right now, right? So someone who's recently released or on probation or whatever it is trying to find housing, like the last thing he's going to try to worry about is whether or not it's in a zone where he's sanctioned to be. Like he's just trying to find a freaking place to live. You know what I mean? Or work.
Yeah,
Like,
yep.
I mean,
And
most
I
of the,
think
yeah. So it's so hard. Now
you
people are just
you talked
lying.
about this like last week to me, or a couple weeks ago. You're talking about people's motivations for fraud. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's another one where I'm like,
Yeah.
that's one of the ones where I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
where is this person supposed to live? Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
nowhere for them to live.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the cruel part of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, rejecting someone for an offense that happened in 2004. And
Yeah.
it's kind of ridiculous,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it doesn't seem fair or right anymore. But again,
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But again,
All right. Well, we'll leave it there. But I enjoyed chatting with you about it. So, well, we are over time. This is gonna be one of my longer podcasts for sure. But I've had such a great time chatting with you, and now I want to wrap on two great questions, and I'm really excited to hear your answers on both. So first, I'd love for you to share a story with us about your time in multifamily.
um, okay. So I could tell. I think I'll just tell my fraud story. It's not the most interesting story, but it's the one that comes to mind just because of this conversation. And then maybe it's just like a cautioning tale. And I think at Morgan we're big, so we see basically everything.
Yeah.
Um, I've had communities. Just again, it's more of an FYI. Is a we had a community approached by a fraud ring. They were getting people in. They were working with somebody on the inside and things like that. So there's kickbacks and stuff like that. Happened once. It was dealt with. But I've also, just so everyone is aware, I've had team members come to me all the time say, hey, like I got approached and they wanted me to move people in and they wanted me to move around social security numbers and things like that. And they told me, I can make X, Y, and Z. So this is a thing that's happening. So again, I would just say pay attention to that and,
Yeah.
you know, listen to your staff and talk to them about it because it is something that is happening.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, almost come to a point where you're offering like whistleblower rewards, like right, where someone comes in and tells you about this or about them being
Oh,
offered something, right? Just like incentivize your team.
I literally told them, like, not seriously, but sort of seriously. In my head, it's serious. Again, if I own my own business, it would totally be serious. I'm like, oh, you should have done it. Like, you should have done it. Like we could have maybe like done a sting here.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, don't do that. But if I own the business, it was me. I'd be like, yeah, let's do this, buddy. Like, and then see if I could catch
Same,
him.
same, same. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a problem.
Well, and you said it really well. I think we've talked about this, but like, if you had, if you were at the dealership and you gave them a CPN, they'd probably call the cops and like tell you
Right.
they're processing it while you call the cops. But we don't do that in our industry. Although it's really hard because a lot of our applications are done online, but we don't do that in our industry. Maybe we should. We should figure it
Right, I
out.
know, yeah, I know. I think people have been talking about it, but it's like it's tricky. It's weird that there's no recourse in this industry. But like, if
Yeah,
you do this at a bank, if you do this at a car dealership, or do it to a mortgage, there's a recourse. It just doesn't seem like there is any legal recourse
yeah,
on our end. But
yeah, yeah. Well, that's interesting. And then thanks for sharing it. I do think it's a great cautionary tale. So Nate, do you have a book that you would recommend to our listeners?
yeah, I mean, so the last book I read was probably for school, which honestly wasn't too long ago. But I would say Dying Well. I forget the author off the top of my head, but Dying Well it's great because it's like it's basically like it's a story about learning how to deal with, end of life. And if you know me or my poor wife who has to sit through my existential crises all the time, like just last night, I was literally telling my wife, I'm like, do you realize we're just on like a rock hurtling through space at 2 million miles per hour?
I love
Like,
it. I
how
love
nuts is
it.
that? But anyway, so like these are the kind of things that interest me. So I'm like, I'm interested in like in the afterlife, and not really the afterlife, but it's more like your energy going back to the whatever. So
Yeah.
and dying well is just it enlightens you on like what to be prepared for, and I believe it's like the story of if I recall correctly, someone who becomes terminally ill, and then they kind of just go through what they have to go through with their family. So it's good to be. It's not something that everybody thinks about, like because like we're what young and everything's fine, but when that time does come and being prepared and being ready, and whether that's emotionally, financially, and things like that, um, it's good to maybe just every now and again, like we put away money for retirement. We focus on our future in a lot of different ways, but we even have life insurance. But do we ever think about like, wait a minute, like if I were to get this terminal thing like quickly or whatever it might be, like am I ready for that? So
Yeah.
it kind of gives you like what you can expect
Yeah.
in that sense.
Yeah, I love it actually. Um, my team laughs at me quite a bit because I will randomly talk about death with my team, and they're like, "You're so morbid," and I'm like, "I'm not actually. I actually think it's like a beautiful thing to think about, like your life holistically, and at the end of the day, that's the only thing that's guaranteed to us." So I will share. I have read a similar type book. It's called "The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying." It's a beautiful book written by a woman who was actually an in-home hospice caretaker for terminally ill patients, and she tells quite a few really incredible stories. But I will absolutely be reading Dying Well, so I'm very excited
Yeah.
about that. And I actually I meditate every day, and I did a meditation this morning, and the meditation actually was focused on thinking about the last time that you will do everything. Like there will always be a finite time that you do everything you ever do in your life. And something like drinking water, like that is something that you will do until the very end, right? You will have your last sips of water very close to the end of your life. But thinking about things like the last time you get to physically pick up your child, like, your
No, don't do
child.
that.
I
Yeah, I think about
know.
that all the time.
I know, right? Um,
I'll be picking him up when he's 30. Just be like, there will be no last time. Like,
Yeah, you wait till he's
I,
like bigger than you, which happens all the time
there's
with kids. So.
the other one I heard like is like the last time you left your bikes out with your friends. It's like,
Ah,
geez.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one to think about. It's like I definitely
Yeah.
probably know when it was, and it's just you just never know, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not necessarily about like you never know when you're going to die, but it's like instead, like looking at every moment, like it could be the last moment you get to experience that specific thing. And so like so many of us take everything for granted. And it's like by the end of the day, that 15th time my 3-year-old wants me to pick him up, I'm like, oh my God. And I make a face because my 3-year-old will look at me and say like, are your arms broken, mommy? Because it's hard to pick him up for the 15th time. But it's like instead reframing that to be like any one of these, could be the last time. So don't take it for granted. So,
100%. I have a
yeah.
4-year-old too, a 4-year-old and a
Yeah.
7-month-old, and we try to hold them at the same time. I'm
Yeah.
like, they're boys, so I'm like,
Same.
not much longer will I be able to do this.
Yeah.
Like, so,
Yeah.
it's
Oh.
horrible to think about, but it's also great because they want to grow up and blah blah blah. But I don't want them to
Yeah.
grow up. But
Yeah. No, I think it's just embracing every stage of life. So until the end. So I really
yep,
appreciate you sharing that. I haven't shared the fact that I read that book with anyone in a while because I was berated quite a bit, honestly, when I went through my like talking about death a lot saga.
it's a part of life, you
I
know.
know,
It's like
right? I know. I
I think
know.
about it. My view is like, hey, do you remember what it was like before you were born? That's probably what it's like after. You know,
Yeah,
it's
agreed.
similar. You know.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. Well, Nate, thank you so much for being here. I have really enjoyed our conversation. And for all the listeners who hung on for this really long podcast, thank you for being here. But Nate, this was just a great conversation. I've learned so much from you across the board. You're obviously really great at what you do and so focused on it. So thanks for taking a minute to share.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'll do it anytime.